Hello, my dear students. Exams are right around the corner. I know. And this chapter on globalization can feel a little heavy. But please, don't worry. I'm here to help. We're going to break it all down, make it super simple, and by the end of this, you'll be feeling so much more confident. So, let's get right into it. Okay, I want you to do something for me. Close your eyes and imagine this. Or better yet, go ask your parents. Not so long ago, if you stood by a road in India, you would pretty much only see two cars, the good old Ambassador and the classic Fiat. Seriously, that was it. That was your choice. Now, just look outside your window today. You've got Maruti, Hyundai, Honda, heck, even BMWs and Audis cruising around. It's a completely different world, right? And it's not just cars. It's our phones, our TVs, even the chips we eat. Our shops have totally transformed. The big question is, how on earth did this happen so fast? To get to the bottom of this massive change, we need to first meet the main characters in this story, the real superstars of the global economy. I'm talking, of course, about multinational corporations, or as we all call them, MNCs. So what exactly is an MNC? It's actually really simple. An MNC is just a company that works in more than one country. It sets up factories or offices in different nations all over the world. And why would they do that? Well, for one simple reason, to make bigger profits. They look for places where they can make things cheaply and sell them for a good price. Let's take a real-world example so this makes sense. Imagine a big American company that makes some high-tech equipment. They don't just build it all in one place. No way. They spread the work across the globe. The design, all the smart ideas, that happens in the USA. Then the parts are manufactured in China, because it's cheaper there. After that, everything is shipped to Mexico or maybe Eastern Europe for assembly, because those places are close to the big markets. And finally, guess what? The customer care, the call centers, they're right here in India. And that's where we in India play a super important part in this whole global puzzle. We have millions of talented young people who are amazing engineers and can speak English fluently. This makes cities like Bangalore the perfect spot for call centers and customer support for the whole world. We are a crucial link in this chain.
Now here's a term you absolutely have to know: foreign investment. When an MNC like Ford comes to India and spends money to buy land, build a factory, and install machines, all that money is called foreign investment. And it's not small change. For example, Ford Motors invested a whopping 1,700 crore rupees to set up its car plant near Chennai. That's a huge amount of money flowing into our economy.
Okay, pencils up, everyone. This is a classic 3-mark question, so listen carefully. What's the difference between foreign trade and foreign investment? It's simple. Foreign trade is just the buying and selling of goods between countries, like China selling toys to India. Foreign investment is buying assets, like factories and machines, in another country. Got it? Trade is goods, investment is assets. Don't mix them up.
All right, so we've met the MNCs, we know what they do. Now let's look at the magic of how all this foreign trade and investment actually starts connecting markets across the whole world, almost like weaving a giant web. I want you to think about the last time you were in a toy shop. You pick up a cool remote control car or a Barbie doll, turn it around, and what does that little label usually say? Yep, made in China. Ever stop to wonder why? Well, this simple toy story is the perfect example of how markets get connected. So here's what happened. Chinese companies figured out how to make awesome new toys at super low prices. They started sending them to India, and boom! Suddenly, for Indian shoppers, there were tons of new designs and the prices were much, much lower. Our toy shops were totally flooded with Chinese toys, almost overnight. But you know, there's always two sides to every coin. For us, the customers, this was fantastic. More choice, cheaper toys, what's not to love? But think about the Indian toy makers. They just couldn't make toys that cheaply. They started facing huge losses. Many of them had to shut down their factories. So you see, foreign trade is great for choice, but it also means fierce competition. Now, this whole process of connecting the world, what we call globalization, has actually been happening for a long time. But in the last 50 years or so, it's like someone hit the fast forward button. So what gave it this incredible speed boost? Let's look at the 3 main reasons. Factor number 1 is a no-brainer: technology. First, you have things like these massive container ships that can move goods across oceans cheaper and faster than ever before. But the real game changer? Information technology. The internet. Email,
Smartphones. You can send a whole design for a car from Japan to India in a second for almost zero cost. Technology has literally made our world feel so much smaller.
Okay, for the second factor, we need to understand a simple idea called a trade barrier. Imagine the government decides to put a heavy tax on all imported toys. This would make the Chinese toys more expensive, right? That tax is a trade barrier. It's basically a wall that a government puts up to protect its own local companies from foreign competition. So if a trade barrier is like putting up a wall, what do you think the second factor is? You guessed it, taking the wall down. And the fancy word for this is liberalization. Around the year 1991, a very important year for India, our government decided it was time for Indian companies to face the world. So it started removing these barriers, these taxes and restrictions. It basically opened the gates of the Indian economy. And the third and final factor is a big, powerful global club called the World Trade Organization, or WTO. The main job of the WTO is to encourage all countries to remove their trade barriers and allow for free trade. But here's the catch. A lot of people argue that the WTO's rules aren't always fair. They might push developing countries like India to open up, while rich countries continue to give massive support to their own farmers. That doesn't sound very fair, does it? So, with technology, liberalization, and the WTO all pushing for globalization, what has been the real impact on the ground here in India? Well, just like the Toy Story, we see that some people have benefited a lot, while others have struggled. There have been clear winners and losers.
So, let's start with the winners. First, people like you and me, especially in the cities. We have more choice, better quality, and lower prices for almost everything. Then you have our top Indian companies, like Tata Motors or Infosys. They've become so big and strong that they are now MNCs themselves, buying companies in other countries. And of course, the whole IT sector, with its call centers and software parks, has boomed. But it's not a happy story for everyone. Let me tell you about a man named Ravi. He had a small business making electronic parts called capacitors. For years, he supplied them to Indian TV companies. But when India opened up, those same TV companies started buying cheaper imported parts. Ravi's business just couldn't compete, and he had to shut down. This is the sad story of many, many small producers in India. And what about the workers? Let's take Sushila, who worked in a garment factory. To compete with global prices, her factory started hiring workers on a temporary, flexible basis. This meant Sushila lost her permanent job and all its benefits. Now she's hired only when there's a lot of work, and she earns less than half of what she used to. For many workers, jobs have become much more insecure. This brings us to the biggest and most important question of this entire chapter. We know globalization is here to stay. We can't wish it away. So how do we make it fair? How do we make sure that the benefits are shared by everyone and not just a select few?
Well, this is where the government has a massive role to play. First, it must make sure that laws are followed to protect workers, like Sushila. It can also support small producers, like Ravi, helping them with technology and marketing so they can compete. The government also has to fight hard at the WTO for fairer rules. And yes, if needed, it can even use some trade barriers to protect small industries. Making globalization fair is a huge struggle, but it's a fight worth fighting. So, my dear students, what is the one big idea you need to take away from this for your exam? It's this. Globalization is a double-edged sword. It has benefits, for sure, but its impact is not the same for everyone. The real challenge, the real goal, is to work towards a fair globalization, one that creates opportunities for everybody and makes sure the benefits are shared by all. I really hope this helped clear things up. Study well, stay calm, and all the very, very best for your exams. You are going to be amazing.